Hi, I'm Joshua Finn from J&H Aerospace. This is the build video for the 2020 version of the Super Protege Elastic Launch Glider intended for Science Olympiad Elastic Launch Glider competition. I want to thank you guys who are with us for the second year of J&H Aerospace producing indoor gliders for Science Olympiad. We first introduced the Protege in August of last year, 2018. And it took off. You guys bought lots of them. We were just intending to be able to produce an airplane that would be durable and still provide good performance for Elastic Launch Glider. And then we worked with a few of you guys to enhance the capabilities of that airplane. And we produced this, which was the 2018-2019 version, the original Super Protege. So now we have made some improvements to the design. And so we're going to do the build video for it. It won't be a whole lot different from before, but we've lightened it up a little bit. We put the airplane on a little bit of a diet, and we've improved some of the structural properties of it. So with that, welcome you to the 2019-2020 Elastic Launch Glider competition season, and let's get started with the build. When you get your 2020 Protege kit, it's going to be in a bag like before. There'll be a few extra parts, but not many. Everything's going to look fairly similar if you have built one of these before. If you have not, welcome to really one of the easiest building gliders out there. So keep track of these little guys. They are very, 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 very important. Some of you guys may not use these, but they're here. There's a specific usage case for them. So when you open this package up, there'll be a list of the parts that we're going to go over and the picture showing all of those. They will look slightly different from this. I'm reusing the photos from last year because I can. Plans, though, are updated. So one thing we're not showing that I do need, I'm going to have to update this set of plans, is the forward position for the wing. So we'll get that updated. This is a beta release of plans anyway. And then this is your set of plans for the parts of the aircraft should you need to replicate anything. So then, once we get past that, I come in here, you have three 18-inch carbon rods. We're just going with 050 carbon rods across the board this year. We tried using carbon tubes last year, and they were technically a little better, but I don't feel that there's enough benefit to continue trying to source those. There were supply chain issues. So some of you got them and some of you didn't. There'll be a rubber band for your catapult, some clay balancing weight. There will be dihedral gauges. Three sets of wings, or rather wing leading edges and stabilizer leading edges, and your little hook assembly. There will be your vertical stabs. Be careful, this is very thin film, don't crease it too much. You'll have your catapult handle, and then, there we go, that guy ran off. And then you'll have your flaps and horizontal tail main panel. And then there are these three guys, which are your carbon bumpers. And those have a specific usage for our deluxe launcher. So unless you're using the deluxe launcher, you technically don't need these. So let's go ahead and get started cutting some parts out. So what we're going to do, same as we always have, I'm just going to pop the wings out of here. The wing plan form is insignificantly different from last year. Since we're a shorter wingspan, they're just trimmed in a little bit and that's it. And go ahead and I'll show you the other way, is that you can just pop a lot of this stuff out of here by hand. You will need a sanding block to sand the burrs off. And so This is your main wing assembly, like so. I'm going to go get a sanding block and we'll come back and we'll make that look nice and pretty. Okay, so the main thing you want to pay attention to is getting rid of these burrs right here on the back of the wing. So we'll wipe those off of there. And then the flat face right here on those wingtips. Same arrangement. So this is kind of what you're going to do, is you're going to assemble all of this together. Lift this up so a little closer in frame here. So take your wing, your wing, not the tip, and squirt some glue along this area right here. And we'll do the same thing over on this side. There we go. Now let's take a set of flaps out. You should be able to just pop these out like that. I don't always get quite that perfect with a cut. But we've got the process down fairly well now. Remove the burrs from this short side of your flaps. So you can remove them back here if you want to, but it's not that big of a deal. The main thing is you want them removed from what is going to become the leading edge of the flaps, because that allows you to get a perfect, straight, beautiful join up here, like so. So at this point, all we have to do is go ahead and glue them in place. And there we go. Flaps are together. Something about the chemical properties of the vector board does make it retard the hardening of this glue somewhat. So I recommend just putting a little bit of CA accelerator down. Now, do not give this Noah's flood of CA accelerator, because CA accelerator, I don't care what brand it is, does dissolve the vector board somewhat. Now it's not going to like completely make it go away, but what it will do is briefly it will soften it. And the problem with that is that when it rehardens, the foam collapses in a little bit and it tends to warp one way or another. So if you use just a little bit of the CA accelerator, you should be good. Now, we're keeping these wings upside down like this. And one thing you can do to save a little bit of weight is to shave this down out here. Alternatively, you can use a razor plane to really take away a lot of material very quickly. And so you just want to taper this down, basically the same thickness as the foam, and you can do this all the way around, really. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. Most of you are going to have wings that are from light enough wood that that's just not necessary. I will say if you do it on one side, you got to do it on the other though. Okay, having done that, now what we're going to do is go ahead and sand any burrs off the front of your wing and then sand a bevel in the wing here on the wing leading edge. And we're going to do this all the way around from the tips all the way in here. And so all we're looking to do is just bevel all the way around here. We're not trying to sand an airfoil shape, and we're not sanding the flaps. Under no circumstances should you sand the flaps themselves. The result will not be pleasing, to say the least. I am going over all of my glue lines, and I am sanding them, just because I want a nice smooth surface there. And then when I go around, we'll bevel all of this again on this wing. Of course, make sure you're not creating two left wings or two right wings, or you're going to be in trouble. And we'll sand the left wing the same way. Just trying to get a little bevel going on there. We want these to meet up nice and tidy like. I have unfortunately gotten mine curved out like that, so I filmed the regular Protege build video last night and did the same thing. Alright, so we're going to pop out our dihedral gauges. If you've watched one of our videos, you've seen them all as far as how I do dihedral gauges on flapped gliders. I take the two halves and I glue them together. Then squirt some glue on the wing root. slip our dihedral gauge in there. And I've got a gap right here that doesn't have glue in it. Yeah, there we go. We'll hit this with a little bit of there we go. And we'll sand a flat right here. Next, we will go ahead and cut out our pylon here. Be really careful cutting out this pylon. Teams that are not prepared for the fact that the grain is vertical have a tendency to break these. I'm just sanding the laser burr off of this top and bottom. And there we go. So we can now, if you are really feeling OCD and want to feel good about yourself, you can sand the front and the back of the pylon. I usually do. I am assuming, based on my experience, that there is literally zero measurable benefit from doing this. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. So, run glue along the top of this guy. That's the top. And then we want to line this guy up front and back with our dihedral joint. And it is important that you get that properly aligned and try to get it as straight up and down as possible. I'm trying to do this with a mirror image because my viewfinder does that kind of thing. But there you go. I have a burr right here. The center dihedral joint on the top has a tendency to develop those. And there we go. So we'll set the wing aside, and now we'll build horizontal tail. Come out of there. There we go. I'm just showing another way to cut these loose because, you know, I can. Now on this balsa leading edge, you can sand this or you can choose not to sand it. It's all up to your preferences. I am going to sand it, and you'll see there is a benefit to it. By the way, you should pay attention. There's a front and back, both of these, and so your stab can end up a little askew with your rudder if you're not careful. I have thought about removing the grooves and just have it be a direct glue-on operation, which is what we did with the regular Protege. Still haven't decided which one's best, so I'm leaving the grooves on this guy for now and let people tell me which they want. So if you get one of these and it doesn't have the grooves, it's because a bunch of people said, hey, we don't need those after all. Alright, so at that point, I'm going to sand the roughness off here. And when I come up to the top, I'm going to sand this balsa down pretty close to the thickness of the foam. You don't have to do that, but it makes the assembly way easier. Try not to sand the foam, of course. And notice I'm not pressing down, I'm just resting the sandpaper on here and rubbing it back and forth. That's very important. Almost down to thickness, just in the middle here. Now this guy is technically the same either direction, but here's what I want to show you. In this arrangement, the rudder is slightly offset to this side, or slightly offset to that side. The benefit to having it on that side, if you are right-handed, is that allows you to more easily bend your rudder over. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let this be the top then. And so I'm going to sand off the leading edge to a bevel on the top, just like we did with the wing. Alright, so beveled here. Now we're going to go over here and we're going to pull out a vertical stab. And I'll take the burrs off of this because I want to. Now I will draw your attention, there is a burr that will form down here. Mine actually pulled out a hunk of foam, so it's good to go. Now in my case, this isn't fitting quite perfectly, so I'm going to take some of the front off of this alignment. I don't know what you call it. Key, I guess, is the correct term. Tab. There we go. Words are hard, it's late. Alright, so now it fits in there very nicely. So I'm going to put glue all the way down it. Notice I'm putting glue the full length of that rudder. Not rudder, vertical tail. You do, if anything, you want this to bend slightly to the right if it's got any bend in it at all. So I have actually gone ahead and kicked it over because I'm right-handed. I'm going to fly this airplane to the right, and I am assuming it's going to need a small amount of right rudder trim. Now let's take one of our fuselages, and we are going to take a ruler. We will measure 6 inches back from the front of this guy. Let me do this differently. I want my hand on this side of it. So 6 inches back. We will now take the wing. Stick it on there. And again, you want the wing, the pylon lined up on the fuselage. So you don't want it offset or anything. You want it nice and straight. And that will enable you to get the airplane trimmed. And there we go. Now we'll come back to the tail. And I recommend, this is about 5/8 of an inch back here that you want sticking out the back as a hand grip. Get your wing so it's kind of equal on both sides, because you don't want any tail tilt. You don't want one side higher than the other. And you can actually measure that if need be. I'm just eyeballing it. parts of my tail that didn't quite latch down. And everything's nice and straight, and I've got my rudder offset. Alright, so we will now assemble the nose. Now be careful with this slotted part of the nose that you just cut it out real gently, because that can break easily. And then we'll pop this guy out. So we see what we're doing. You see what we're doing here is we've glued this part together. Now we're putting glue in the slot. So this is just standard Super Protege, whatever build technique. There we go. Try to get it straight up and down. Mine's not. And then come in here, glue the other side. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and sand this nice and round. I'm going to recommend against that because here in a minute we're going to do something a little bit different with it. So there's the completed nose without any rounding on it. Okay, so one thing I will mention, if you're using our deluxe launcher, you do want to sand the bottom of this hook in quite a bit so that it doesn't disturb the rubber band too much on the launcher. I'm only doing this on the bottom where the actual hook area is. Now, next up, we're going to start including earplugs for the noses on these airplanes. But you will want to take some very careful measurements to make sure that you don't violate the sharpness rule of these, because this is smaller than the end of a chapstick cap, and so this would go all the way to the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back a little ways here. I'm just going to cut the end off of this earplug. And this is a distance back I'm confident will pass the chapstick test, even though it doesn't give you really the best result. The longer these are, the better. Now if you're going to use this guy, sand a flat on the front of this guy, with this nose, just like that. And then hit it with some glue, and glue the end of the earplug on here. You say, what does that do? That provides impact resistance so that the airplane does less damage when it hits the ground. And that one's secured. Now, next thing we want to do is out here at the wingtips, and you want this to be fairly parallel to your fuselage. Outboard of this apex of the flaps right here, we're going to come and we're just going to cut a line all the way through our flap like that. And then I'm going to go next to it and I'm going to cut, and we're going to do that carefully so I don't drive my body into the plane and break it. I'm going to cut a strip out like that. So we've just got a thin little gap. You want this gap to be very narrow. That's all you want right there. We're going to go back and we're going to repeat that on the other side. And this greatly enhances your ability to extract maximum performance out of the airplane. And there we go. Now at this point I can curve my flaps down like so. And with that we have the latest and greatest Super Protege for 2020 rules. The aft center of gravity limit of the Super Protege is right here. We want the airplane to balance forward of that up to maybe 1/8 of an inch forward. It's a fairly narrow CG range. Now, before I balance this, I will mention, since I've got this little carbon rod, if you're using our deluxe launcher, you do need to add the carbon rod. So what we're going to do is we're going to use it to just poke ourselves a hole in the balsa part of the horizontal stab like that and drive it all the way down. Get that hole as close up to the side of our vertical stab as possible. You want to angle it back about 45 degrees. Now I'm going to squirt some glue here and up on the top. Poke this little guy in here, maybe. There we go. Shove it in. And you do want to make sure this is secure, so it's not going to come out when exposed to a hard shock or anything. And there you go. I've got a little bit of excess glue actually. Now, with that set up, we're going to set this on a glider balancer. And we discovered that the CG is all the way back here, so we're going to add just a smidge of clay to bring the CG forward. So we will add some glue up here so that the clay stays attached. There we go. So now let's check, where's our CG now? And that actually brings it up to about right here, which is a little ahead of that joint, so it may actually be a tiny bit nose heavy. We'll see. Last thing, if you're going to use the, if you just want to use a launching stick, which all of these are supplied, so you can just use a launching stick, and I got very good results just using this and not a fancy launcher. I know a lot of people win competitions flying this way, but we do now have the high precision launchers, so you can use those instead if you like. We're going to tie a knot in this. This is about 6 inches long, and then we will loop our hands through it like that, pop it over all on one finger, and so all we're doing is just forming a slip knot, and then you can add a little bit of CA here and get that to stay put. And with that, the build is finished for this airplane. We'll do some basic trimming and then direct you off to our various trimming videos on these airplanes. Okay, so we've got the Super Protege 2020 built out, and so now we're going to do some very basic trimming. I do have my left rudder. First thing we want to do is look at our wings, and you can see I built this airplane good and straight which is actually disadvantageous. So what I want to do is I want to take my left wing here, because I'm right-handed, I've got right rudder, I'm flying the airplane to the right, and I'm going to grab the wood part right here. You can see how I'm twisting this. You hear it cracking a little bit. Sounds terrible, as I've said in all my videos. It sounds terrible, it's important. Now, if you look, now my flap on this side, on the left side, is not drooped as much, so you want to bend it back down, get that nice curvature in there and all that. Like that. So you're basically, these flaps are going to retract up when you launch the airplane. So it'll come up kind of like that. And so they won't have as much influence. And only the wooden part of the wing is really going to drive things. When the airplane enters the glide, the entire wing influences things. So you want the camber to prevent you from having the airplane actually drive off to the left once it gets stalled, gets a stall going, because that is a common phenomenon that we see. So now I'll angle the camera down a little bit so we can see some of this. Or just give it a test glide. And it drifted off out of camera frame. I will be right back. So I'm going to let you see this one more time before I make an adjustment. All right. So what we are seeing is that the airplane is flying nose down. Now, that means I probably need up elevator, because the airplane's CG is about where I said it needed to be. Now, when I look at my horizontal tail, I don't know if you can even see it real well, there's a slight warp. This side is angled down, looking there. You can see that a little bit. What I want to do is I want to get rid of that. So I want to bend it up a little bit, like that. Now let's see what happens. Well, first of all, I glided it off into the wall. Yeah, let's try that again. Oh yeah. That's how Super Proteges glide. They just kind of hang there. Alright, so we've got that all taken care of. We have a basic glide established. Everything looks good. We're going to give this a hard toss and see what happens. We're just throwing it straight across the room. Alright, so we saw what we wanted to. We see that the airplane, when launched, proceeds out, noses up a little bit, and then hooks off to the right. Now there was a little bit of a stall there. You couldn't see that because that went off frame, so I'm going to show you that launching over this way again, and we'll see if we can replicate it. Now, it is possible that that stall will emerge into something more as you proceed further in your trimming. It's hard to say. So what you're going to want to do is get the airplane to actually start catapult launching it a little bit horizontally to verify that. And then you can launch it vertically and see what's happening from there. We have a full trimming video for the Super Protege. I'll probably do another one for this year just so you'll have it. So you'll see two airplanes go through the process. It's going to be a few weeks before I get that out because I need to do that on site at an indoor location. We already did one for the regular Protege outdoors, and I mean it trimmed out very quickly, but again, we don't know. So with that, there's one last step that I want to show you, and then we'll wrap up the video here. Here at J&H Aerospace, we have these scales that are available in somewhat limited quantities. You can use these to check the weights of your airplanes. I'm not going to open this one up mainly because I don't have the fittings set up for it. But what I want to show you is on my scale, which I've had this thing for years, I have this little piece of tubing glued here so that when I fire this guy up, I can stick this in here, and this is just another piece of tubing that goes in it. And then I've got this this little pincher made from foam rubber that that I can stick the airplane's pylon into. And I don't know if you can, let's see here, do it this way. Maybe, there we go, you can see the weight. And the airplane, in this case, which I knew this one was going to come out heavy because I use mediocre wood on it, this one's 4.9 grams. So it's, some would call that a porky pig. So most of the Proteges you're going to build out lighter than this one. Like I said, I did not use the best wood I had on hand. And the other thing is I have not sanded it down or anything to its full extent, so you can sand this wood thinner and it'll be fine. That being said, this is a competitive weight for this airplane because it has a very large wing. So, with that all established, this has been the build video for the 2020 Super Protege from J&H Aerospace. Questions and comments, please put them in the comments section below. We'll see you at the flying meets around the country, and hope you have a wonderful time flying this airplane. See ya. Hi, I'm Josh Finn. This is Hope. We are J&H Aerospace.
If you like this video, hit the like button.
Also, how about subscribe to our channel and check out jhaerospace.com for new free flight products and all of the tooling that you'll need to build them.
Thanks for watching.